Yeah, let's get it, man. Welcome to the channel, everybody. If you are new here, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment of your thoughts. If you are returning, welcome back. We are here today for another official video. I can't begin to tell you guys how excited I am for this week of college football. It is officially week 1 in college football this weekend with games tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday. Everybody's playing and either going to go 1-0 or 0-1. So let's get straight into it. The first game up we have today on the slate begins tomorrow, Thursday. It's going to be number 14 Utah versus Florida. Florida beat Utah last year in the bowl game last year, and Utah honestly had a chance to win that game, but I personally felt like it was kind of a choke game and kind of ended up giving it up for obviously no reason. When they were in the red zone and didn't score. So this is more of a revenge game for Utah. The problem here I have is the line. The line started off at -3.5, jumped up to -4.5, and then went all the way up to -6 when I'm pretty sure when Utah heard that their quarterback is going to be playing Cam Whitmore. And now the line today has dropped all the way back down to -3.5 and bumped up to the original line at -4.5. And for a line to be going south when I feel like it should be going north with a not that so good designated Florida team this year, with who just lost Anthony Richardson to the draft, their best quarterback that they've had in years and best player that they've had in years. I don't feel as if Utah is going to cover this spread. I personally feel like Florida is going to give them a backdoor cover. I can see Utah covering the first half spread, but Florida coming out the second half and covering a backdoor cover and covering this 4.5. Next up, we have what I feel is the most exciting game throughout this entire weekend. And it's the game that everybody's been talking about, everybody's been waiting on because of the man who's going to be coaching the game. And yes, it is going to be Colorado versus number 17 TCU. Now, as we all know, Deion Sanders had a very successful college career at Jackson State, but this is not Jackson State. This is Power 5 football. This is FBS football. This is the SEC, Big 12, you feel me, the Big 10. This is real football here. This is not FCS. This is not HBCU. I personally feel as if with TCU, yes, they lost their quarterback, their star quarterback last year. He wasn't really a star to me, but he did really well for them. They lost their star receiver who went in the first round, and they lost some key pieces on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. But I still feel as if their offensive line and defensive line is much, much, much bigger, stronger, faster than Colorado's offensive line and defensive line. And in college football, as we all know, the big boys up front and the offensive defensive line is what truly matters. Yes, the skill players matter a lot, but it all starts up front. I personally feel with Deion Sanders Jr., the quarterback for Colorado, he is going to have a good year and going to be throwing a lot of passes this year with the weapons that he has. He has, Travis Hunter, the former #1 recruit. They have also who came in, a #1 cornerback, Cormani McClain, who they said who have been having an up and down camp. I personally feel this Colorado team will be solid in the next 2 to 3 years, but this first game, it's going to be a lot of jitters, mistakes, and things that happen, which will, I personally feel, lead TCU to covering this -20.5 spread. Next up on the list, we have ECU versus Michigan. Michigan opens up at number 2 in the AP polls this year. You got JJ McCarthy at quarterback. He's back this year. You got Blake Corum, who's big on the Heisman list this year, who was actually was the best running back in college football last year. I felt and was at the top of the list for the Heisman last year before he got injured and everything, and would really hurt their season. Michigan defensive backs are supposed to be the top and the best defensive backs in the country, as both of their returning defensive backs are returning this year. Their problem here is the first 4 games of the year, Jim Harbaugh, their head coach, will not be coaching. But lucky for them, they have a really, really easy first game out here at home in the Big House. This will be their toughest non-conference opponent in ECU, but ECU still is just facing the toughest challenge that they are facing this season, which will be number 2 Michigan, because they will be playing hard for their coach, I feel. Michigan will cover the -36.5 spread. Next up on the list, we have Ohio State versus Indiana. This game is really, really exciting to me because all summer, all all off season. Ohio State has been going back and forth with who's going to be QB1 this year between the highly touted Devin Brown and the junior who's been there already in Kyle McCord. And just yesterday, Coach Ryan Day has announced that Kyle McCord did get the head nod and is going to be the week 1 starter versus Indiana this Saturday. But Devin Brown will see the field as well. So if Kyle McCord gets to messing up or doesn't have that good of a first game or something like that, expect Devin Brown to come up in there. And if he comes up in there and fills that void that Kyle isn't doing the job that needs to be done, expect him to run away with his QB1 position at the Ohio State University. Of course, we don't know about their weapons. Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Ibuka. You got Trayvon Henderson is back this year. Mayan Williams. And the defense is and supposedly has gotten better this year. Ohio State, to me personally, is going to make the college football playoff, and we will have to see what they do and who they face once we get there. But they are talented enough offensively and defensively enough this season to cover this spread and to make it to the college football playoffs. Ohio State will cover this minus 29.5 spread. Next up on the list, we have Nevada versus USC. Now, USC played in the week 0 college football weeks, which was last week. They played against San Jose State. I personally feel like USC defense did not show up at all, and over the last couple years, USC defense has been terrible. Now, luckily, they have had a superstar last year who won the Heisman Trophy winner, and Caleb Williams, who was looking to be the projected #1 pick this year. But their defense has to step up because their offense is there, but without defense, what are you? Now, luckily enough for USC, this is, again, like I said, this is their second game of the season. So they already have a lot of things that they can tweak and adjust on the defensive side of the ball. The offense will put up plenty of points against Nevada. There's no worry there. It's about, will they be able to stop Nevada from scoring? Because I didn't feel that San Jose State was going to score that many points on them. But as we see, they did. I still personally feel as if USC, with their game under them, has plenty of time to get everything fixed and will cover this huge, big minus 38.5 spread, as Caleb Williams will dominate this game as well on the offensive end. Next up on the list, we have Middle Tennessee State versus Alabama. First things first, I have to say this. I personally feel that this is going to be a trap game. Yes, I said a trap game. The line is set here at minus 39.5. And I personally feel with all the other top teams, with their big spreads and their big number against their weaker opponents, it's been set at that nice 34, 35, 36 range. For this to be minus 39.5, I feel as if Vegas knows, or the sportsbook know, that everybody's going to be harping in on Alabama, and everybody loves to bet on Alabama week 1. And for the line to be minus 39.5, I feel as if Middle Tennessee State gets a backdoor cover, and the score could end up being like 49-10. And boom, cover doesn't get spread. So I personally feel as if we should take this game and take this opportunity as a trap game, and then see what happens as we take Middle Tennessee State to cover the plus 39.5 spread. That's going to be exciting to me. Next up on the list, we have Texas versus Rice. Texas opens up this season as number 11. Quinn Ewers is back, the #1 ranked quarterback in the class. Well, he did drop to number 2, but everybody know Arch Manning, who was talked about worldly since he was a freshman in high school and couldn't wait to see where he was going to commit to. And now that he's here in Texas, he had all this hype, but had a very poor spring game. All in all, Quinn Ewers, who's going to be going to the NFL after this year, I expect him to have a really nice season passing-wise. With Bijan Robinson being gone in the NFL now, it gives him the open field and open reins to throw the ball as much as he wants to his talented receivers like Xavier Worthy, who's a star. And with this Rice team just being absolutely terrible and coming into this super hot heat of Texas, to where only really Texas really know how to handle, I don't see Rice putting up any more than a touchdown. If that, they might get off 2 field goals, 3 field goals, but no more than a touchdown here, as Texas will easily cover this minus 35.5 spread. This will be a blowout. Next up on the list, we have number 10, Washington versus Boise State. I am not going to lie. Michael Penix Jr. last year was special to me as he led the FBS in total passing yards thrown throughout the year. And this year, with him having a better offense and a projected first-round draft pick and a receiver that he has there with a nice running back core and nice offensive line, I cannot begin to explain to you guys how special I think this Washington team is going to be. Michael Penix Jr. already last year was special to me personally with that left hand. I love, for some reason, there aren't many, so that's why I love him so much, but I love left-hand quarterbacks, especially when they're talented, and Michael Penix Jr. is very talented. This Boise State team, I wouldn't say that they're terrible or they're bad. Boise State usually produces good offensive and defensive teams, usually pretty solid right there in their conference, and they usually put up a good solid season. But against a very talented Washington team who hasn't been this talented in years, they are up against a very, very tough road test against Washington, and I do feel Washington covers this minus 14.5 spread. Very excited for that game to see what Michael does this year. Look out for him for Heisman. Next up on the list, we have Buffalo versus Wisconsin. Wisconsin has the SMU quarterback transfer who threw all over the field last year for SMU, who's going to be coming in and having the job here at Wisconsin, who is going to be changing really the culture of Wisconsin and what they're really about, because Wisconsin usually, as we know, is a running team and really good throughout the running game and keeping a lot of low-scoring games because they're in the Big Ten and they play a really good defense and do a lot of really good running the ball. But with the quarterback this year that this dominant and with the offensive and receivers with the playing field of this different and dominant, expect to see a more high-scoring, more electric Wisconsin football team. Their defense has always been solid, and I expect their defense to show up again today without a problem, but expect that offense to put up some real numbers and some real points as Buffalo out of the MAC conference. It's just going to be a really tough game against a Big Ten team that is coming in this talented like this. And I do like Buffalo, and I think that they will do well in the MAC conference, so look for their spreads in their conference, but not this game, as Wisconsin will take care of this minus 27.5 spread. Next up on the list is we have a game that I feel is really exciting for one side of the team, and it's because of how talented they are coming in this year, as we have number 7 Penn State versus West Virginia. First things first, Penn State is coming in and is looking to dominate this year, especially in the Big Ten. They are opening up this first home game versus a very terrible and on the way out West Virginia team with a head coach that is looking to potentially might get fired somewhere throughout this year, as he is on his last leg and as they are ready to start fresh at West Virginia. But this Penn State team is opening up at home on NBC as the debut NBC game. The crowd is going to be rocking. The fans are going to rock. Beaver Stadium is going to be rocking. This team is going to be very talented, as they have now brought in the number 3 recruit of the last year's recruiting class. It was a superstar quarterback. They have a very talented running back class, and they have very talented sophomores all over the field. So this year and next year, expect Penn State to be dominant. I really like Penn State to cover this minus 20.5 spread. I don't see West Virginia even coming close to covering this spread or even coming close to being in the same ballpark as Penn State, as they will dominate at home. Last but not least, we have a game that I feel everybody will be tuned into and will be one of the most high-scoring games of the weekend, as we have number 21 North Carolina versus South Carolina. We have Spencer Rattler versus Drake May. Spencer Rattler, who ended off last year on a really good note with his team passing the ball and looking very solid, like how he used to look coming out of high school, but not even close. Then we have versus Drake May, who is projected to be a first-round draft pick quarterback this year. Very highly touted in the Heisman race this year, going against Caleb Williams and Michael Penix Jr. and a bunch of sort. I personally feel this is going to be one of the highest scoring games, as the over-under is set at 64.5, and the spread is at North Carolina minus 2.5. North Carolina defense has not been good over last year, the year before that, or the year before that, and they're not going to be good this year, as they always give up a bunch of points, but except with Drake May coming in, they allowed them to put up points as well. So North Carolina versus South Carolina. South Carolina defense is better than me, which will allow me to personally feel comfortable to pick South Carolina to win this game outright, with them being plus 2.5 dogs. I personally feel as if South Carolina, especially at home as well, with the crowd rocking and their defense being there to save them and having a matchup offense that's the same as North Carolina, they will win this game. So look out for that. That's very exciting. That's I really appreciate you guys for listening and taking the time to hear me out. Again, if you are new here, please hit that subscribe button, like, and leave a comment. If you are returning, I appreciate you returning and listening as well. Let's have a great weekend, everybody. It's week 1 of college football. Let's turn up.